Okay, so AI, it seems like these days AI is being used to predict everything, like what we're going to type next or what we want to buy next.
Hmm.
But what I really want to know is how AI goes beyond just, making things a little easier.
Yeah, it's really about more than just making predictions.
Right.
It's about like rethinking how we approach entire industries even.
Yeah, and how it's going to change systems, not just make predictions.
Exactly.
And that's where I think this book that we're looking at today really comes in handy. Um, Power and Prediction. Have you heard of this one?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
By Brynjolfsson, Agrawal, and Gans.
Yes,
It's
it's a good one.
it's not just like another business book. It's really like a guide to understanding how these changes might actually unfold.
Yeah, it's
And I
interesting.
think they make a really good point right at the
Hmm.
beginning.
Yeah.
They're like, think about it this way.
Hmm.
Electricity was supposed to be about cheaper power, right?
Right.
But it ended up completely revolutionizing factories.
Right.
AI has that same potential.
Totally. And what's really fascinating is how the authors actually use history to explain AI's potential impact.
And that's what I think is so cool about this book.
Yeah.
They use all these stories and examples to like illustrate their points.
Yeah.
Like they highlight this company, Verafin, that specializes in fraud detection.
Mm-hmm.
And because their entire system was already built around prediction, like they were already gathering data, analyzing it, making decisions based on that data, they were in a prime position to implement AI.
Yeah. And that's key.
And like it was a no-brainer for them.
Most businesses aren't structured that way, at least not yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us to what the authors call the between times,
Hmm.
right? It's like when electricity was available, but factories were still stuck in that old steam engine mindset.
Interesting.
We're seeing glimpses of AI's potential, but the real transformation, the part where whole systems change, is still on the horizon.
It is, yeah.
And that's what I think is so interesting about where we are right now with AI. It's like we're on the verge of something huge, but we're not quite there yet.
It's a critical period for sure. It's full of uncertainty, but it's also full of opportunity.
Totally. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Like imagine if Google Maps, instead of just predicting traffic, actually influenced how cities are designed around traffic patterns.
Oh.
That's the kind of system level shift we're talking about. It's not just about using AI to improve what we already have. It's about using AI to completely rethink what's possible.
That's a really good point. It's not just integrating a new tool, it's like entering a whole new era.
Exactly. And that new era has a lot of implications to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we're talking big changes here.
Mm-hmm.
And with those big changes come big questions. Like, for example, who gets to make decisions when AI is calling the shots?
That's a huge question, and it's one we'll definitely delve into as we continue this deep dive.
Yeah, because that's something I've been thinking about a lot too. Like, if you're giving AI this much power, how do we make sure it's being used responsibly?
It's about finding the right balance, you know?
Yeah, finding that balance between innovation and ethics.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to stifle progress, but we also don't want to create a future where we've given up too much control.
It's a fine line, but an important one to navigate.
Absolutely. One of the things that really stood out to me was this whole idea of AI being really good at replacing rules. Like those just-in-case rules that we all seem to have.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The authors make a really interesting point about that.
Yeah, like instead of just automatically leaving for work at 7 a.m. every day because of traffic,
Yeah.
what if my AI assistant could tell me the absolute best time to leave based on like real-time traffic data?
Exactly. And they actually call that rule breaking. It's like how AI can help us move from these kind of rigid rules to more efficient, data-driven decisions.
It's like AI taking all the guesswork out of our lives.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think about
Oh
airports.
gosh, don't even get me started on airports.
Right. All those expensive terminals and shops, they exist partly because of that just-in-case rule. Like, we've all been conditioned to get to the airport super early.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I've definitely spent way too much time wandering around those overpriced airport bookstores.
Exactly. But imagine if AI could just tell you exactly when to leave for your flight. No more stressing about missing your flight, no more killing time at the gate.
Right. That would completely change the whole airport experience.
It really would. And it might even change the way airports are designed. Like, maybe we wouldn't need such massive terminals if everyone wasn't showing up 2 hours early.
It's crazy how much we've built our lives around these just-in-case rules.
It really is. But AI has the potential to really shake things up.
It makes you wonder what other outdated rules we could be getting rid of.
Definitely. And that brings us to another area where the authors see huge potential for AI healthcare.
Oh yeah, everyone's talking about AI in healthcare. But this book actually goes a bit deeper than that.
It does. They go
Mhm.
beyond just the hype and look at some really interesting examples. Like, they talk about these two economists who built an AI that can predict heart attacks more accurately than doctors can.
Wow, seriously.
Yeah, and while that's super impressive on its own, what's really interesting is what they call decision hashtag 2.
Okay, what's decision hashtag 2?
So it's not just about using AI to diagnose a heart attack, but it's about using AI to completely change how we respond to those diagnoses.
Oh, interesting.
Like, imagine if instead of you having to rush to the emergency room, the paramedics could use AI to bring the right specialists and equipment directly to you.
So it's like instead of having this one-size-fits-all approach to emergency care, AI could help create a more personalized and efficient system.
Exactly. It's about using AI to get you the right treatment at the right time in the right place.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. But of course, as with any major technological shift, there are some really important considerations to keep in mind. Like, who actually benefits from these AI-driven advancements and who might get left behind?
That's a really good point. Like, we can't just assume that everyone's going to benefit equally from these advances.
Right. And the book actually brings up a really interesting example with the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Do you remember that?
Yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah, so they were using AI to try to predict which homes were most likely to have lead pipes.
Right, and it seemed like such a perfect use of AI, like using technology to solve a really important problem.
Exactly. But what's fascinating is that those AI predictions were initially ignored.
Seriously.
It seems like they just didn't align with the existing political priorities. Like, the system wasn't quite ready to accept what the AI was telling them.
Wow. So it wasn't until a court order mandated the use of the AI's predictions that they actually were able to start addressing the problem effectively.
Exactly.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is. It shows that it's not just about having the technology. It's about having systems in place that can actually use those insights to make a difference.
It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly.
If the data going into the AI is biased or incomplete, the decisions coming out are going to reflect that.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind as we move forward with AI development. It's not just about making the technology more powerful, but also about making sure it's being used ethically and responsibly.
It's like what you were saying earlier. It's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
And it's about remembering that AI is a tool.
Right.
It's not a replacement for human judgment.
Yeah, the authors actually emphasize this point. They say we need to move beyond this idea of AI versus humans.
Right.
It's not about one or the other.
It's about how we can use them together.
Exactly. It's about AI augmenting our own capabilities, not replacing them. Like, they give that great example about weather forecasting.
Oh, yeah, with the meteorologist.
Yeah, as AI gets better at predicting the weather, it doesn't eliminate the need for meteorologists.
Right.
It actually allows them to focus on what those predictions mean.
Instead of just saying, okay, there's a 30% chance of rain, they could say, hey, you might want to grab an umbrella today because that outdoor meeting you scheduled is looking kind of iffy.
Exactly.
So it's about moving from these broad predictions to more personalized insights.
Right, insights that take into account your individual needs and circumstances.
It's about making AI work for us. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
It really feels like we're just scratching the surface of what AI is capable of.
We are. It's a rapidly evolving field.
And this book, Power and Prediction, has given us a lot to think about.
It has. It really has. It's about so much more than just the technology itself.
It's about how this technology is going to shape our world.
And how we're going to shape the future with it.
Exactly. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we need to be having these conversations now.
We do. Because the decisions we make today are going to have a huge impact on the world of tomorrow.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question that the authors pose in their book. If AI can help us make better decisions, what are the big decisions that we should be focusing on?
That's a great question to ponder.
What kind of future do we want to build?
And how can we use AI to get us there?
That's all the time we have for today. But I encourage everyone to check out Power and Prediction for themselves. It's a thought-provoking read that will really get you thinking about the future of AI and what it means for all of us.
It's a must-read for anyone who wants to understand the world we're living in.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.